Today's show is brought to you by catconnection.com. Purchase all of your homebrewing supplies and draft beer equipment with everyday low pricing and everyday flat rate shipping at catconnection.com. Go to catconnection.com right now and use our promo code HHH to receive 5% off your order.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Hey, welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, visit homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing, and today I am joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson, Mr. Just-in-Time James Carlson.
Yeah.
I saw you have to get up, probably tell...
Well, I had to lock the door because nobody reads the tag that we're doing a podcast. They'll just walk right in, so...
Yeah, and you're way too nice. So it's like Todd... up there at headquarters, when y'all are recording, I've set it up to where now Todd is in my office because I'm never there. We always record these on Thursdays, and we publish the audio the same day, just later.
Right.
You know, your equipment's in your office, and so it's convenient and whatever. But the thing is, when Todd was over there, y'all had signs on both your doors. Hey, we're recording a podcast. Shut up. And they didn't listen. They don't listen. But Todd would, you know, like sometimes he would just shout, like during the middle of the show, he would mute his mic and just go, "Shut up!" And they would listen. You're too nice a guy, James.
I don't know. You should have been here yesterday.
Oh no!
Yeah, we
I
had that phone call meeting.
Oh yes, James, the man. Because your name starts with El Jefe, Jaime.
Yeah, I guess.
I love it. I love it.
You know, you caught me. It's just, you know, it's frustrating when you can't. People are trying to call in and you just can't get the phone answered. So,
yeah,
I think we took care of that yesterday.
Yeah, I believe you. I've been around Angry James before. Angry James is no friend of mine.
No.
I've fortunately, knocking on wood and praying, I've never experienced the wrath. I've just got to watch it, and let me tell you, it's a lot more enjoyable to watch it, I'm sure.
I hate it. It just sometimes, you know, sometimes it's necessary. I hate to say.
You know, well, that's where one of the hardest things for me for managing people, as you know, Todd had given me responsibility over people before, and
Sure.
The hardest thing for me was I can't take anything serious, and you have to when you're in charge. Like you have to. It's not something like my whole shtick of being goofy isn't just a shtick. Like it's how I really am. Ask my wife, ask anyone. And
I'm jealous because I wish I was that way, and I just don't have that bone in my body.
I think it's just a survival mechanism. But I'd have a hardest time telling this person, like, no, I'm not joking anymore. Like this has to get done. He'd be like, oh, ha ha ha. But no, seriously, like it has to get done. Like I don't want to. We're not friends.
No, I think it started. Actually, I started managing when I believe it or not when I was 18.
I remember you telling me that. At a franchise, Pizza Hut, right?
Yeah. I was the youngest Pizza Hut manager in Texas at that time. That was a long time ago. And you go through I've gone through different growths in as far as managing, and you know, the hard ass and the nice guy and the best friend and all that. So I'd like to think that's all kind of morphed into who I am now. But yeah, it's
oh yeah. My wife will tell you, just because as a parent, that's kind of a managerial role. And we play good cop, bad cop, but I'm always good cop. And so I got
exactly.
I got to work on that because, like, especially when you're managing people who aren't your kids. Well, actually, both ways, because managing your kids, and to me, is a much higher priority to me than managing anyone else. Like, I'd rather them be productive, good citizens than me having, you know what I mean? Like, they're my priority is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, it's the same concept. Yeah.
I have a daughter, and I'm always the good cop, and my ex is always, she says, the bad cop. So
I love it. I want to sidebar real quick because I think I mentioned that I would bring this up. this time of the year here in Kyle, Texas, I think the rains brought them a little bit worse, but there's a ton of house flies in our neighborhood. It's this cookie cutter neighborhood, white picket fences. Their marketing is all about like how charming this area is, but don't move here because the flies, if you hate flies, don't come here. And there's this one, I thought I got rid of all of them out of my office. There's this one that is just totally right now picking on me because I think he thinks I'm not going to stop this podcast to kill him. And I will, if I get the chance. Just a heads up, if the people watching the video, if you see me either talking but flashing real quick to James' camera only, like I just did now, that's probably me standing up and killing a fly, or you'll just see me do it. Between the fly, and I don't know if Zach up there told you, because he called me at like 8:30, and I had told him, like, let me call you back, dude. I have the AC people here. My AC busted this morning.
Oh, no.
I know. That lovely unit back there behind my shoulder went out. Fortunately, it was just the AC in my office. So, like...
Yeah. So you've got a mini split.
I do. A ductless... Yeah, I love them. I love them. When they're working, they're great. Mm-hmm. When they're not working, this office that used to be a garage gets really warm. Go figure. When it's 88 degrees outside. But the guys here in Kyle, the AC guys, they came quick. They got it done quick. They just had to recharge it. Freon is not nearly as expensive as replacing a unit or repairing a unit. Thank God. So life was good. Now,
and the good thing is those mini split systems don't use near as much.
Exactly. Super efficient.
My unit, I had to have the A coil removed, cleaned, and replaced. And I think they charged me over $1,000 just to recharge the system.
Oh, I was, so like this unit itself, I forget what I paid for it, like $3,300 for everything said and done.
That's not bad.
It wasn't bad. It might have been $4. It was overkill for the space because I was like, I want to be cold. And especially with the production work I do, like when y'all come up, I want it to be comfortable but not loud, right? Like I used to have a floor unit in the corner. Have you ever had a portable floor AC unit?
Oh yeah,
they are loud, very very noisy, so loud. And so I used to, when I first converted this office or this garage to an office, I had that, and I would put it at like 64. And for an hour before people got here, because I knew when we start recording, I got to shut it off. You don't want to hear for the whole freaking show or whatever we were producing. So, but now that thing right now, I feel the air. It is beautiful. It's wonderful.
And it's nice and quiet.
It's nice and quiet. Survival is so easy. I'm spoiled. I want it all. And we live in a time where I'm almost getting it all. So,
cool.
Hey, I do want to bring up for our listeners your weekly reminder that we are going to be at HomebrewCon June the 27th through the 29th. I had mistakenly kept saying the 26th on previous episodes, but I was saying that because that's when you and I, James, are going to be setting up.
Yeah.
So you and I will be there the 26th, and if anyone wants to come set up the booth for me while I watch you, you can't really get in.
We'll have a beer afterwards.
There you go. We'll have a beer afterwards. Actually, I think I've made our booth that last year is when I was in full control. I think I made it as easy as possible. It's just we pull up the thing, we open up the table. We just have to. We're more like decorators. That's why I don't mind, and I like that it's you and I who get to go early because we always have a good time afterward.
Absolutely.
So
good meal. We're gonna have a nice, big, huge meal. And it'll be on CM Becker. So.
Oh, deal. You had me at meal, and then the implied free.
And maybe a few beers.
Yeah. We'll think about it. In Rhode Island, I don't know if they have good beers in Providence.
Yeah. We'll find them.
Booth 719. Come visit us. We've got some buttons to hand out. We're going to have, Todd, last time when I talked about, we're going to have koozies, haven't ordered them. He sent me a link. Then the company went way up on them. So I don't know. We're going to have giveaways, and we're going to, I think, still have a sign up at homebrewhappyhour.com. We just don't have it yet, but we have time. That famous last words, we have time. But we are definitely going to have giveaways from everybody, plus delicious beer at booth 719. So come visit us if you're going to be in Providence, Rhode Island. And I've had a handful of listeners reach out and say, we're going to be there. Let's do a meetup. So I'm trying to figure out the logistics of how a meetup could work. If we want to do it on a specific night and we just say, hey, everybody, we're going to meet at this bar. I'm doing my homework to make sure that we make it as easy and accessible as possible. So that way it can go, everyone can meet each other and we can hang out and drink together. Because that's really what HomebrewCon's about. is
and I'm looking forward to that. I think that was fun last year.
that's
And
my
we had
favorite.
We've got some really good listeners, and they're friends, so it'll be nice to spend time with them.
I agree, and I'm glad you said that because that's how I feel too. We have the community that we are growing, even though it is getting to numbers that I believe are physically impossible to keep up. like you think, what is the maximum amount of people they say that you can really keep in touch with in your life? It's like only like 200 something, right? So if you add zeros to that, no, we don't have 200,000. We have thousands of listeners, subscribers. There's no way we could keep up with all of them. Fortunately, they're not all coming to HomebrewCon. Actually, that would be great if you all did.
It would,
but we couldn't do a meetup for everybody. But I agree with you. We have a core group of 150-ish or more that write in all the time, that we communicate with all the time. And it's a cool feeling because we've never met in person, most of them, but I still feel like if we did, we would just pick up right wherever we left off on an Instagram comment or something. So
they're just like, they're people, we're everyday homebrewers just like they are. So
exactly,
nothing special about us other than you put this podcast together, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my mom says I'm special, but you're right. Nothing else is that special about us. It's taken me long enough to bring this up. You will notice, listeners, we are missing a core component of the show. Mr. Todd Burns is in Hawaii.
Yes.
We're planning on having him on the show this week, but he texted me this morning and he said, I'm actually on like my third scuba dive. I'm taking the girls. How about we do it, later, like this evening? And I was like, don't even worry about it. I don't want you to, I told him from the beginning, I don't want you to feel obligated to do the show from Hawaii unless you have the time to do it.
Right.
Like if you have a break in your day, not to make a break, but if you had the break. And so he was like, okay, let's just do it next week. And so,
and you know what? If I was there, you guys would be the last thing on my mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're the last thing on my mind any other day. Like, like both of y'all, like y'all write my checks and y'all are still. Todd is he loves doing the show, and he told me to tell everybody hello, but he told me he just, like you said, he just doesn't care. So, which is good. It's a good not caring. He needs to be like they're coming back. I think the 12th or the 11th.
I just thought it was early next week, but I don't think it's going to be a while, isn't it?
Well, his out of office, it says Wednesday the 12th, which I assumed meant they'd probably land that Monday or that Tuesday. I have no idea.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow, they took a heck of a vacation. I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah.
So they're going to have a whole week all next week and half of the week after that.
Either that or, knowing Todd, he is prone to typos. He could have meant June 2nd, like this Sunday. and then
I think, didn't he tell us 10 days?
I thought he said 12, honestly, but
maybe it was 12. It was a fairly long, almost 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, exactly. And the cool thing for them is, Todd is always traveling so much, and he's always staying, always booking hotels and whatnot. I'm pretty confident they got away on this vacation for as good a deal as you can get, when you acquiring points.
Did you see where they're staying at there on the beach?
It's ridiculously beautiful.
It's a brochure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something I will never get to experience in my whole lifetime, I'm sure.
Todd sent me a photo, and I guarantee you it is not the photo that resort's marketing team will ever use for their brochure or their marketing efforts. A topless Todd Burns kind of, no cigar in his mouth, but a beer kind of daintily held in his hand.
I think I got, he sent me one. It's great.
Oh, I've been getting, I love it. I've been getting tons of photos from him, and I've seen the girls on their Instagram have been posting stuff. It's been,
here we go. I don't know if you guys can see that, but.
Oh yeah, that's the one I reposted on our, if you go to if you go to Instagram.com/Homebrew Happy Hour, you'll see the first one that he posted. And you know what? There's a listener, I think their Instagram handle is like Big Monster Brew, or I'll find it here in a second, but he is also actually in Hawaii right now. And
oh wow.
And he was like, can't find Todd. I was like, you really can't miss him though, dude. Like, I promise. Instagram, Big Monster Brewing, all one word. He was saying that his pictures too. I am just jealous of people in Hawaii right now. Period. If you're watching the YouTube, the video version, you can see that I'm dressing the part as I always do. But I'm a poser. I'm a wannabe. I'm a hack. I'm a has-been. I've never been to Hawaii. I don't even think this is part of their culture. I think white people appropriated it and made nice floral shirts. But hey, I'm all on board with that.
Hey, when in Rome.
When in Rome, I love it. But yeah, Todd, I think is going to be on NetSuites. And if he's not, well, he'll come back and then we'll talk about it when he does come back. So no worries. And then before we get into the questions, one more thing I wanted to ask you, because one of the beers, I've put all this pressure on you because we're going to be going to HomebrewCon and serving these delicious beers. You were not happy with the first iteration of your alt. I was super happy with it. I drank a ton of it at Todd's house. You have a second one. Have you last week, it was still early on.
You know what? I went, how I was talking about what I try to do, and what's so hard to do with the alt beers, to take away that stout taste,
right?
That kind of finish, and it had a little more of that than I cared to. So this time I did a triple decoction. I started at 110 degrees or 130 degrees. I had contacted Schlussel Brewer, and he gave me the recipe, and he only uses just base malt and a little bit of carafa too. So I thought I'll do that. And then Todd got me that book on alt beer, and I completely eliminated the heavy roasted malt that I do. This is kind of an experimental batch.
Right.
Went completely to the other end of the spectrum. So I sampled it today, and I'm probably going to take the first batch with us.
Okay. It's not funny. I'm not laughing at your expense. I genuinely love how serious you take. I mean, it's not a joke. I'm not laughing. I'm just saying. I genuinely love how much you put into it, wanting it to be perfect, because it is a really hard beer.
It is. Yes, I'm thinking about maybe giving Brandon a call and saying, "Hey, man,
we'll pay him. Brandon, bring yours as well, exactly. With you up to, because he's going to be there. He's going to be. He just stopped by the booth. His came out. James, you have brewed a gazillion amazing alt beers, and I really do think I haven't tried your second batch yet, for your most recent batch rather, but the first one you did for HomebrewCon, I think is wonderful.
I'm just I don't know what it is. I'm in a brewing slump. I think that I've got that lemon drop Pilsner, second revision, and it's in the conical right now. And I just did the diacetyl today, so it's at 1020.
See, don't let Todd and Joe get in your head, man. Don't let them. That first version of your lemon drop was perfection, and I
liked it. I really thought it was cool because it was a crisp, clean. It wasn't sweet. It was a dry, more on the dry side than the sweet side, which is kind of what I was wanting. Something real subtle. But like you said, I mean, I get it. These things kind of these earworms get into my brain, and I double, triple check everything and change stuff. And anyway,
I'm announcing right now, Todd, leave him alone. Leave him alone. You're making him you know what? Maybe that's why you are as good a brewer, and you're good at your job, and you're good at everything, because you take criticism well, or you take it to heart, and you work on it.
I wouldn't say I take it well. Sometimes I get butthurt pretty bad.
Well, okay, I meant you take it to heart, and that inspires you to perfection. Where me, Todd will be like, "Man, that looks bad," and I'll just be, I hear wah, 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 wah. And I just shake my head and like, yes, sir. Okay, I'll change. I don't change. Come on.
I don't know it. I don't know about you, but everybody else's beer tastes better than what I brew.
No, I've become very narcissistic now, especially with that Kolsch. I gave a growler to a buddy I trained with.
I think that's awesome, by the way. I enjoyed that post.
Yeah, I gave him a very fair warning. So we went to a Memorial Day party Monday, and I brought a growler. It never got touched. As the day went on, and we were swimming and drinking other beers, commercial beers that he had bought. Like he brought some Pearl Snap Pills from Austin Beer Works, and
I've heard that was awesome.
It's an incredible Pilsner. And he brought some cider from Austin East Ciders, and he brought a slew of more or less local beers. He did have Two Hearted Ale there from Bell's. That was wonderful. Cool. And then he also had Community's Mosaic IPA. He's an IPA guy. Besides that Pilsner. So I totally lost track of it because when you're drinking, I totally forgot. And so I told my buddy, I was like, hey, I'm going to bring this up. This was last night. I poured it. It's been cold the whole time. I want someone to drink it before it goes flat. And I'm not going to drink 64 ounces. Do you want it? And you can, enjoy it as you will. And he put a post and said, hey man, this was fantastic. Thank you. And my head just went because I was
a great feeling. I mean, that's the biggest rush for me is to somebody have one of my beers and think that either I bought it and I'm lying or they couldn't believe you could do that at home.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not beneath me to buy commercial beer and lie to say it's my own. So I get why people would think like you didn't brew this. Oh, you're right. I didn't. No. Joke's on you. But no, the Kolsch, and again too, I think my narcissism might be misplaced because the Kolsch is such an easy brew. It's really hard to mess up in my experience. I'm sure I could, and I'm sure I will one day.
Oh, absolutely you can. But a lot of purists would say that's the only way to brew a beer is keep it simple because that's how you can make it great. And my problem is I dabble too much. When you've got 100 different types of grain upstairs, it's hard to not go overboard.
Totally. Of course, you have it at your leisure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, totally.
Over tweak things is what I tend to do.
And I love simple. I've been a little intimidated by watching you and hearing from you and hearing from Todd about the alt, because my ultimate plan was I just want to brew alt and Kolsch. That's all I ever want to have on 2 taps. Now I'm kind of terrified, but hopefully I got that book that you have. I'm gonna follow that. I already forgot the name. The Islanders or Eyeliners or the one from the brewmaster from Schumacher.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just try it just to see if I can not have to rely on you texting me back to answer all my questions. I just want to see if I can. I want to see if I know.
I don't know if I'm the guy right now on that.
No, I didn't mean. I just meant I want my first experience of dabbling away because I use you as a crutch, and I mean that in the most complimentary way as possible. When anything goes wrong, my dad and I have you on speed dial. So I want to try to just go off the book, see if I can replicate it, and if I don't, then bring all my questions to you. And if I can get an alt of any kind just dialed in, then I just want to go back and forth between brew and alt, brew and Kolsch, brew and alt.
And I think that's where the true to style alt beer is about as close as you can get.
Yep. Without
driving you nuts brewing.
Right.
And that's been me for the last 6 months trying to brew that stuff, and last year too. And it's just because you and I both had it from the source, and it's a magical, wonderful, delicious beer.
Honest to God, it's so crazy how I've been. It's no secret or surprise to anyone who watches or listens to this show. I've been on a Kolsch kick. Everything I post is Kolsch. Everything I talk about. It's almost as annoying as my Founder's Breakfast Stout kick that Todd has made me promise never to talk about. But you're not on today, so deal with it.
Yeah, but to be fair, that's probably the best stout I've ever had.
Oh, me too. Oh, yes.
Hands down. I mean, hands down. I pulled that recipe up, and I was going to brew it, and I looked at it, and I thought, my God, you ought to see the grain bill on that.
Oh, show me. I'd love to.
I've got the recipe I dabbled with putting it out in a kit, but I don't know if we could make any money making that as a kit.
I believe you. I think Homebrew Supply has a clone kit, and I think it's terribly expensive. I think it's ridiculously expensive.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about $60, $70 5-gallon kit, But the Founders has Kona and Sumatra coffee.
Right, they do.
And that stuff is high by itself.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I don't know how they do it, but I appreciate that they do it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, when we're in Dusseldorf, and I could be on this kick, all I want are Kolsch. The second we sit down, the first one we always hit up is Schlussel, or we did last 2 times I was there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then you forget that other beer exists. You just do.
I mean, it's just, but of course, we always try to make it to Cologne when we're in Dusseldorf. And Kolsch there is all you want to drink.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's so crazy. It's intoxicating. I love when I discussed it with my friends here in the States. They don't get. So you just go to all they serve is the house beer. That's all they serve. I was like, listen, Like when we sat down at Fru, which is right by the hotel we stay at, that Hilton,
Exactly.
right by the Dome. I could have been there all night. We didn't. We jumped around Peter's Kolsch. Then I was like, oh, I could stay here all night. But it was drinking a cloud. Like when I'm in Cologne, or pardon me, first when I'm in Dusseldorf, because that's where we always start. It's like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life, is just stay here and I want to brew alt. And then you go to Cologne, you're like, oh, okay, I guess we'll go to Cologne. And then you sit down.
The ideal thing would be to live right between both of them.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. You know? Isn't that basically where our counterparts live? Stefan, isn't he right between them? I say right between them. He's a lot closer to Dusseldorf, but isn't he going on the way towards Cologne, or is it the opposite? It is, right?
No, he lives on the way going towards Cologne. And in fact, he lives by a brewery. I think y'all got to go there. Where they serve. He was telling me that there's a brewery there, but kind of between Cologne and Dusseldorf, that kind of makes a morph of both beers.
Really?
Yeah.
I bet you Todd went. That's something that Todd would keep from me.
Yeah.
But yes. So I guess to wrap up the small talk, Todd in Hawaii, booth 719 at HomebrewCon, and me brew Kolsch. Okay. I have a couple of questions for us today, my friend. And the first one came from Jeremy K using the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Jeremy wrote, so I've always wondered about the German purity law. It has always been interesting to me why it was created, as well as why it has maintained its place in brewing for so long. Big emphasis when he puts the word so. I mean, it's all caps, bunch of O's. So long. If it was simply to prevent bad product or infection with the advent of modern techniques in sanitation, why would it not have been amended? If it is simply a tradition at this point, why is it not optional, but kept as a standard for certain classic German styles within their country? After brewing some alts, Kolsches, and a Roggenbier, it finally dawned on me that this really doesn't make sense to have as an institutional standard anymore. James, he's right. And I have deja vu. I don't believe we've never taken this question, right?
I don't think we've ever talked about the Reinheitsgebot, but you got to understand that those people over there, now they are serious when it comes to beer, and they have been perfecting beer since the 1300s.
Right.
So if you talk about, they instigated that, I want to say around 1516. And the reason why they did it was there's three reasons. The first reason was they wanted to protect the price, because you could imagine back then that was a staple for every household. So the prices were all over the place. The second reason is they didn't want wheat used in beer, and people were using wheat mainly because that wheat was for bread, so it could affect the way the supply of bread. So that was another reason why when they instigated, they were like, don't use wheat because we need the wheat for our bread so that we can eat. And then the third one is just the toxic stuff they were putting in beer back then. I mean, you were talking about nightshade, soot, pitch, toxic chemicals that the very least make you sick, the very worst could kill you.
Yeah, nightshade dry hop doesn't sound good.
No, and it's deadly. So, there was a lot of reason. In fact, it was one of the very first, I guess you would, a food safe law that was created back then just to protect what they were doing. But you know what it did? It evolved into producing better beer. So as that region was known for producing better beer, more regions adopted it as well, and it pretty much became a standard by 1900 across all of Germany. And I think that I think it's done well. There's regions where they have, it's called the PGI, and it's to protect places like Cologne. They want the Kolsch to stay Kolsch, so they're bound by law to follow that. So there's different in Munich beer is under that same Reinheitsgebot. Now, there are some people, in fact, there's some younger people in Germany, younger brewers, that actually feel like America has better tasting beer. And they want to be able to, and they're experimenting with adding different stuff to the beers. Now, then it's not going to be nightshade or anything like that, but some stuff like orange peel or coriander or, stuff like that brewers in the United States use, or everywhere else. So they're kind of split, but you talk about deadly serious brewers in Germany that would never, even if it wasn't the law, or in a lot of places it's not the law of the land, but we wouldn't imagine brewing any other way, because that's how they were raised, and their fathers were raised, and their grandfathers were raised. That's just the way they brew beer down there.
Right. And so like what Jeremy's saying too, though, I don't know. And I didn't do a Google search. I wanted to put all the homework on your shoulders. Why hasn't it been amended? Like, we have a style guide here
Sure.
that is amended. Is it annually, basically? And it's updated to reflect trends or what people are doing or terminologies or whatever. The word I can't pronounce that you're calling it, the German purity law.
The Reinheitsgebot.
The Reinheitsgebot. Is it, one, is it true it has not ever been amended? And second,
Well, it hasn't been amended, because when it first came out in the 1500s, it was a water and barley and hops. But back then they had no idea what caused it to ferment, right? So when they did find out about that, they added yeast. But it's been that from there on. It's never been amended. And you've worked with Germans, right?
Oh yeah.
They're pretty set in their ways. And I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to convince a German that brews under that law to do it any other way, because they wouldn't.
Right. And like you said, it is I think Jeremy nailed it a little. Tradition has got to be a driving factor that keeps it there. That the German, again, my experience with Germans is very limited. I don't want to paint a broad brush, except that they all love beer and sauerkraut. But besides that, no, kidding aside, they do seem like very like proud of where they came from. Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
You think about hundreds and hundreds of years of refining their beer. My feelings on this is, I'd say keep doing it, because I think some of the best beer I've ever had's come out of Germany.
Yeah. Oh, you're a total. Yeah. You are a total German beer head, and and Todd is kind of annoyed at how you're converting us all. Like, he sent us a begrudging message from that brewery, like, "Oh, you guys would probably like this one. It has no hops." Like, you got that text, right?
No, but but to be fair, I like hops. I just like everything balanced.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's nothing wrong with the IPAs. I give it crap all the time, but there's nothing. That's just me.
Yeah.
There's lots of people that like IPAs, and that will always be popular, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But my personal preference is a balanced German lager and ale.
Right. Well, in the same breath, like I said, it's all good fun. Like, when we poke at any style, most of the time, anything I'm saying, it's to try to get a laugh. But when I had that, I hadn't had the Mosaic IPA from Community in a long time. Todd used to have it pretty frequently in his fridge, but now that he has draft beer all the time, I don't even touch his cans or bottles anymore.
Yeah, I don't either.
But he that was the first one I'd had in a while at this Memorial Day party, and I forgot how solid it is. And for the setting too, it's hot outside. We were swimming, we're soaking in the sun. The kids are playing. I was like, this is really refreshing right now. And Community is one of my favorite breweries too of the year. That their ESB is fantastic as well. They do good stuff. But yeah, that the IPA I had. I had an initial shell shock of how much I enjoyed it. But again, joking aside, Joe, like that IPL that we're taking to HomebrewCon.
Really good.
It's really good. Really I love it. I'm going to be drinking. Well, actually, I'm lying. I'm going to be drinking your Alt and your Kolsch until they're gone, with probably mainly the Kolsch, because I don't want to be kerschnockered when we're at the booth. And
there's 20 gallons of Kolsch in the keezer outside.
Well, is it the Kolsch that
I've got the first batch and I got a second pitch batch, so we'll just have to decide which one to take, and then the rest we can divvy out.
I'm smiling right now. If you audio listeners, you have to see the grin on my face. No, I have right now behind me in the kegerator. If I move out of the way, right there, I have 5 gallons in there. And then my dad still has 5 gallons at his place. I say that. I mean, right now, after what I've drank out of this and what I've poured in the growler, I've still got 4 gallons, right? Or 3. But my pop probably has similar. We did not end up, by the way, I feel like I have to confess to listeners, I did not give any Kolsch to my brother for the grand opening of his card room. I told my dad, listen, I'm a jerk, I'm a snob, whatever, send me hate mail, I did it anyway. I was like, no one's gonna appreciate it. And look, poker players,
you're right.
besides them being a bunch of degenerate poker players, people you've been to a place like Todd's 50th party.
Yeah.
People don't know how to pour because this is all going to be self-pour. And what do? They if it's foamy, they don't adjust accordingly. They don't ask for help. They just pour it out. They just pour it out. And my dad said they ended up getting a beer, like they got like Ziegenbot, some AB InBev deliciousness. Whoever depends on who's. But
I had that the other day, and I'm a big Bach guy. Man, it was sweet.
Oh, it's very sweet.
Really
it's a sweet amber,
sweeter than Shiner, and I like Shiner, but.
Yeah, but my dad was like, "You were right, dude," because I'd warned my dad. I got him Todd gave me. It was, I guess I didn't know CM Becker used to be big into drip trays, and this was like our old production one. Todd was like, it was in the photo room in a box of stuff that was going to get pitched, and I was like, "Why are you pitching these?" He goes, "You can have it." I was like, "Perfect, it'll be great for my dad because it's better than the ones that come with the kegerators." And I told my dad, I said, "I'm telling you, you're going to end up having to clean that thing out because people are going to think it's a drain because people who don't work with draft systems or whatever are dummies and just don't know any better. They don't know.
They call it a drip tray, not a drain tray.
Exactly. Oh, that's what I should have told him to say. But so he said he was there at my brother's grand opening playing in the tournament. He's a degenerate too. And he said, yeah, sure enough, I would get up during breaks or whatever and walk over there and I'd have to carry it carefully and go empty it and clean it out. He had to do that 4 times. And then the girl who was running their front desk had to do it 3 times herself. This isn't a 4 or 5 hour period, man. Like people were just also the keg was a little foamy. The temperature, they didn't have time to get the temperature all the way down to be pouring perfectly. So he had to do a lot of troubleshooting. It worked out fine. But
the cool thing about homebrewing beer, especially when you have good ingredients, is you can drink that warm.
Yes.
And you can't do that with like a Coors Light or a Miller Lite.
Totally. Oh yeah,
it's amazing.
And like I said, the main reason I did not is because I was like, you know what, Dad, this is the most snobby thing I've ever said to my dad about our beer. I said they won't appreciate it, and then I felt like a douche, like really quick after I said that. But I told him, I said the real reason, not just that they wouldn't appreciate it, but I knew that if they got any foam, they're gonna pour it, and I would have cried watching watching a gallon of beer get wasted. We both seen it. It's heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
heartbreaking. Absolutely. But anyways, I totally got off track. Jeremy, thank you for submitting the question.
That was a great question.
We got one more for today's show. Come from Clayton H., also using the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Clayton wrote in saying, I'm curious about James's pump mod he put on the mash and boil, which touched on in the video reviewing the electric brew systems, which, by the way, James, that's at like 23,000 views now.
Crazy. Yeah.
Crazy.
We're actually going to be working on some next week, aren't we?
We are on Monday and Tuesday. Yeah. I wish I knew a way to make money off of views. But anyway, Jeremy's question. I'm curious what size tubing he used, where he got the fitting he mounted in the lid, and how he deals with the possibility of overflow from too much liquid transferring to the top of the grain bed quicker than the flow rate through the grain bed. Clayton, That's a great question because your mod, we did link, if you go to that video, we did link to a lot of the components, but it's worth mentioning on here too, because we are at some point going to do more video on the mod itself, but we could give a preface here. So James, take it away.
Yeah, it's super simple. I think a lot of times people tend to overthink certain things, and I think sometimes I don't think them enough. But if you look at that, go back and look at your mash and boil, you'll notice that basket inside is actually slightly lower than the top of the mash and bowl. So it's not going to run over. It'll run over the basket back down into the bottom of the pot, so you don't have to worry about it overflowing. I know the grain father has a tube down the center. It's got an adjustable level, so that's what it's for, and it's mainly to keep from burning up that element, but it's going to cut off if you do it anyway. My advice would be to always just check it every now and then. If you're watching it, nobody would want to just turn that on and walk away. So when I'm using it, half the time, you can take a piece of, I'm going to use this as an example. If you don't have to use a spray head like I did through the top. I just did that because I thought it looked cool. You can always lift the lid and look at it. There's a valve. You can regulate the flow of water.
Yep.
That's just a simple solar. I got that on Amazon, and I want to say it was a pump for cooling solar cells, the liquid in the solar cells. I actually talked to the manufacturer, and they said that it was food safe. But like I said in a previous episode, they wouldn't give me a certification on that. You can use a chugger pump. You can use any pump you want. Just keep in mind that you might want to put a valve, like a ball valve on the output. You can shut down, of course, the flow on the inlet side, but it's easier to maintain pressure if you put a simple ball valve on the outlet side. But what I did was every now and then I would just lift the lid. If you don't want to put it in a lid, you could build a hook. And you can either go to the hardware store and you get some simple fittings to hook it over the edge of the mash and boil. Or you could even make your own hook with silicone tubing. You take a piece of paper like so, and then you want to cut tabs on the end just like so, and then you'll bend these over the hose to hold the hose, and contour the metal to hook on the side of the mashing bowl, and it'll keep the hose in place.
Nice, Engineer James. I like that. That does.
You can do that with any old pieces of steel, or if you've got a piece of stainless steel, like an old stainless steel lid laying around or something like that. Get your 10 shears, cut you a piece like this, and then you want to cut tabs out to wrap around the hose like that, and then you'll bend it. And then you'll hook the hose around and it'll stay in place.
Dude, that is a lot more straightforward than I thought. Because I'm with a lot of viewers and listeners who are like, sometimes when you and Todd talk about complicated things, you make it seem like it's easy. But when you visualize it, it's like, oh, okay, wasn't that hard? Okay.
You can even take something as simple as a coat hanger with some zip ties.
Right.
Bend the coat hanger, zip tie the hose to the coat hanger, and use it as a hook. You just want to make sure it doesn't come off.
And what size tubing did you use? Do you remember?
I believe I used 3/8 ID hose because that's what the fitting on the mashing bowl is. I believe it's 3/8.
I was, there's a brand new one that just launched from Anvil called the Foundry. They come in a 6.5 gallon or a 10.5 gallon. And I'm trying to get a unit shipped to us to do an overview video on it. We love Anvil. We love Blickman. Great people there. I think I emailed Jamie, their marketing professional. I was just say marketing chick, but I didn't want to sound crass. But now I just said it, so now I sound crass. But Jamie, she's a cool professional, and so is Doug. I know. I think I reached out to him too, just to see if they had a review unit. Worst case, we'll buy one, and we're not going to brew on it just for the video, and we'll sell it. But we. Where I'm going with this is I think when I'm up there, if we don't have that unit in to make the video on that, it would be good to just go over, get the mashing bowl you've modded, and just go over it and have it an addendum to the last video we did, because you could probably go over it in 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah. In fact, we could probably fill the grain hopper with just something that shows what happens when it overflows. It's going to flow over that hopper back down into the pot. So I wouldn't worry about that. The only thing I'd worry about is starving the element, the bottom of that, and scorching the wort. So that's why it's real important to regulate your flow and keep an eye on it. If you see that it's not draining, you need to just stand over it and stir it.
And that's a great question from Clayton, because I know I've talked to enough people who have either commented on that video or wrote into me after watching the video, and they say, well, first off, they're like, thank you for showing that it's possible to mod it, because I already have this one and I don't want to buy the one with the pump on it now. Even though, they retail pretty affordably, any of these are between the three, but besides the Brainfather, which is worth every penny, but besides that one, these are between, $300 and $700. That's not most people can just go, I'm going to just buy the upgraded one, and then they got to worry about selling their other one or whatever they're going to do with it, gifting it. If you can just DIY mod it for very affordable, like I said, we have links in that video to what you used. You'll find like, oh yeah, it's worth the $80 total and my 1.5 hours of time to mod this thing. But yeah, Clayton, that just, his question just made me think, if I can't get the Foundry in time, we'll just do the video while I'm up there, because we're going to be making a Homebrew Happy Hour Father's Day gift guide. Father's Day, we may be a little biased, the three of us who are usually on the show, but it's the best holiday of the year, and we think you should take care of Dad in all his brewing. I know my poor pop got into brewing because I forced him, and no, I didn't force him. He loves it, but I definitely, every holiday, whether it's Father's Day, his birthday, Christmas, he ends up getting brew stuff. So we did a ton of questions about from the retail side of things. A lot of people writing in, I'm trying to buy a gift for my significant other, for my father, for my uncle, for my grandfather, blah, blah, blah. What do you think I should get? So we're going to do some videos just showing like, hey, if they're going to be all grain, but they have limited space, and if they, some good recipes that are easy, like the Kolsch, like we're going to have to talk about how, in my opinion, I recommend your true to style Kolsch extract recipe to every beginner that's ever asked me who has a beginning kit, like, brew this. You're gonna. It's very straightforward. It's very affordable, and you're gonna love the result. Everyone's gonna like it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things is when I first started brewing beer, my whole goal was to do a Shinerbach clone. That's not a beginner beer.
No,
I was very disappointed. I was this close to just giving up and not going forward with it. But talked to a homebrew shop in Fort Worth, and they were like, this is what you need. And I want to say it was a Texas wheat kit. And I did it, and it was really good. Never tasted anything like that before. And it really sparked my interest back into the hobby where I was just about to get out of it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I think I like when people have big ambitions, but if you stick with something simple like the Kolsch or like a basic pale ale, something that is very straightforward, and you can drink it relatively quick after you're done brewing. I mean,
that's the key, and the ease of how to do the kit.
Correct.
Single hop edition. I would prefer, your first kit, just throw some dry yeast in it. Don't worry about the liquid yeast. All of that stuff will come as you grow into the hobby, but you want to have good results immediately. You can do that as possible.
Absolutely. I agree. Thank you so much, Clayton, for submitting the question. The fly coming around my head is reminding me it is quitting time. It's wrap up time. We've been having a lot of feedback too about producing more than one show in a week. And then other people saying, or just make it longer. Well, today's show by default was longer. So y'all let us know how you like it or not. I small talked Todd wasn't here to regulate me and
it was almost an hour. Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, man, I could talk. When I'm done editing this from all the off air banter we did before I hit record, it'll probably be like a 48-minute show. But James, I appreciate your time, my friend. Oh, yeah. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
All right.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question that you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the Submit a Question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call or text in your questions by dialing 325-305-6107. Reminder, when we take your question on air, we do send you a $25 gift card to that episode sponsor, which today we thank our show sponsor, catconnection.com, for supporting our podcast and the home brewing community. Go to catconnection.com, use our promo code HHH, and you'll get 5% off your order. On behalf of the vacationing Hawaiian Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.